Well, good morning, everyone. Thomas Montgomery, ICS. It is Thursday, April 9th, and we're going to get started a couple minutes earlier than the scheduled time, 8 o'clock Central, just because we have a lot to cover, and I know we're going to run long, and this will maybe mitigate how long we run. Today's topic is crucial. It's a continuation of our discussion of how to onboard a capital-ready client effectively. If you onboard your clients effectively, a couple things are going to happen. They're going to be pleased. We're going to be able to get them funded quicker, and you're going to get paid back in money quicker. So those are three pretty strong reasons to understand how to onboard a client properly. Now, we've covered 3 to 4 times in the past week or week and a half what you see on the screen now. So we're not going to spend much time on it, but it's the 4-step process to onboard a capital-ready client. I only show this just to put in context. What we're discussing today is a deep dive into number 2, putting the client into the CRM. Probably inappropriate of me, but let's step back for a second. We're in some challenging economic times. I had a breakfast meeting this morning with an owner of a cabinetry shop. And I asked him, his name ironically is Tom as well. And I asked him, there he goes by Thomas. I said, Thomas, how's your business? Crazy good, crazy good. I said, really? There's so much going on. He goes, no, the interest rates are low and people are still remodeling their homes and buying new homes. We're as busy as we can be. And in fact, our biggest competitor is booked out all the way to August of taking new orders. So that makes us even busier. What's my point? Well, and I'm not advocating for this, but it's what I believe. I think these difficult economic times are creating a greater divide between the haves and the have-nots. The haves are still out buying cars. The haves are still out enjoying their lives because they don't have the level of economic uncertainty or turmoil that the have-nots have. I bring this up to explain all of us have the ability to help people become part of the haves, even if they're currently in the have-not group. Well, how do you do that? Well, you create something, you create some sort of entrepreneurial endeavor that solves other people's problems, that brings in positive cash flow that you earn a profit from. You start a business or you grow a business. Right now, I wouldn't want to be out looking for a job, right? What, 10% of America is out of work right now? Well, I'm sorry for that fact, but what you and I can do is help those, whether they're gainfully employed and looking for extra income, or even if they're unemployed and wanting to create income for themselves and their family and for their future, is to start and grow a business. So the onboarding that we're talking about today is an important foundation for that. Because as we know, you're going to collect the $4.99 from the client. And so they're going to pay you the $4.99 via PayPal or however you want to collect it. And then shortly thereafter, essentially at that time, you want to go ahead and say, well, great. I'll pick Barry's on the phone or on the webinar. Barry, thank you for enrolling in the Capital Ready program. I want to get you onboarded as soon as possible. May I schedule with you a time now? And you could do it in person or telephonic. You say, oh, I can't do it in person. Well, you can look at your own local restrictions if you can do that or not. But you could do it telephonic via webinar or in person. In person is the most personable, but it's up to you. But Barry, let's get you scheduled to get you onboarded as soon as possible. And Barry might say, well, can we do it right now? And you might say, fine. Or Barry might say, well, how about tomorrow? So obviously you're not rushing the client into it, but from the time that they pay you the $4.99, we're kind of on the clock. We want to create positive momentum quickly so the client sees movement. And chances are, if you're good at these processes that I'm describing, Barry or whomever your client is has 5 other people that they can refer to you. But that's only going to happen if you effectively onboard the client, create a good positive experience. So with that being said, after you've collected the money, we're going to onboard them. Let me change the screen share here if I may, and we're going to go over to the onboarding screen, and we're going to go through it together. And again, as I mentioned, we typically do this in the in-person training, but we're going to do it virtually today. So this is the screen that it takes you to when you click on that step 2 that I just showed you. Now, there's 2 schools of thought, and you've heard me say this before. You can just give them that link and walk away. I think that's a pretty piss poor way of helping people, but if that's what you want to do and that's your style, I guess you frankly delivered the link. But more valuably, what you should do is see this as a needs analysis, an opportunity to earn about $250 for this hour that it's going to take you to onboard the client and help the client get off to a good start. Now, if you're a business-to-business professional, many of you are insurance agents, CPAs, website developers, business coaches, Legal Shield representatives. If you have other business-to-business offerings, then this is even more valuable because you're essentially getting paid about $250 to prospect new clients for your other services. But nonetheless, let's assume clients paid you $4.99. You've scheduled the time to go through this with them, and here we go. All right, so question number 1, to no surprise, is what is the name of your company? And we're going to say test company. We're going to go through all these fields. Then it asks, well, what is your first name? And we'll say my first name is Test, and my last name is Test. And then the email. The email is important because you want to use we want the client to use the same email consistently because that's the unique identifier. So we'll say I'm test@test.com. Obviously, you're not going to be making all this up. You're using the client's actual information. We're just going through it. Street 1, I'm at 555 Main Street. I'm in Suite 100. What country am I in? I'm in the United States, probably, right? What city am I in? I'm in Test City. You probably haven't heard of that. I'm in good old Alabama. My postal code is 0001. All this is painfully obvious. It's going to become a little bit more interesting as we go along, but we're capturing basic demographic information. So let's say that that's good enough. Let's just move on. I'm bored with this. Hit next. Says no, you got to fill this field out. The CRM does not like blank fields. So do I have another business address? And I can say, oh, that's not applicable. I don't have another business address. So I know it can be a little inconvenient to have to put in information when there's not much value there. But the bottom line is what we've learned is that if we allow blank fields to be blank, then people will leave them blank, and then we have a partial data set. Primary business phone. So notice this is not how they necessarily want us to contact them, but this is one of your first educational moments. Do you have a business phone number that's listed with National 411? So if someone's looking you up, that they call directory assistance or do 411.com, that they find your name attached to a business phone number. A business phone number that's not your cell phone number. Most of us don't have home phones, but that's not your home phone number. And so they might not have what would be best, which would be a unique business phone number, but they hopefully have some phone number that they're operating off of. There are no prerequisites for a client to start the Capital Ready program. So they might say, oh, geez, I shouldn't have enrolled. I don't even have a business phone number. Well, that's fine. We'll put in what you do have now because we need that as a data set, and we can revise it later. So you don't beat them up over what they don't have, but you're also having kind of teaching moments of, well, a well-ran, well-set-up business would have a business phone number, right? And one of the premises of a business phone number is I don't look at the caller ID to see if I recognize the caller before I answer, right? That's a piss poor way of doing business, and that's what a lot of small business owners do. So they could even set up a Google Voice number, a Ring Central number, a Ruby.com number, but regardless of whatever number, you put it in there. Next, you get to company website, and they, oh, damn it, I shouldn't have signed up. I don't even have a website. This is bad, kind of my money back. So of course, you're going to reiterate, look, whatever you have now is fine. We just need to gather data about the current baseline. Now, a website is important to have, right? Let alone from a marketing perspective. Many sources of capital will go look at your website to confirm you do what you say that you do on the application. So having a website's important. So if they don't have a website, then you could have them put in our website or any URL that you care to. Now, so there's kind of good, better, best. Best would be that they have a website. Better would be if they don't have a website, you're going to help them create a website. So maybe that is a revenue stream that you would like to take advantage of and help them have a website. Or maybe you want to refer them to others that develop websites, because what's the best way to earn a referral? It's to give a referral. So now you're networking with owners or business development representatives of website creation firms, and you're able to say, okay, well, I see, Barry, that you don't have a website yet. That's fine. Let's just plug something in for now. But I'd like to introduce you over to Judy, because Judy has helped a number of my clients develop a website, and she's got a number of different packages. So you can see creating value. Who is the primary contact? Well, primary contact's name is Test. What's their phone number? And so this is very important. We need the phone number of who we're primarily going to be in contact with, and what is their email. So with that, if all goes well, we're going to hit next company structure, and we've completed the basic demographics. Granted, a lot of it is just kind of administrative putting in, but you can start to see even on the phone number and email that I know a number of you have started your own business coaching practices. And so you're collecting a fee from them outside of our relationship to help them properly set up a business. Some of you are charging around $1,000 for that. And if the client doesn't have the funding, you're deferring that until after their first cash capital raise. And again, that's between you and them. We're not an intermediary on that, but you're helping them build out their business properly. And again, you don't have to do that, but you could. Okay, next company structure. Oh, I didn't have this correct. So it's looking for a true website. Doesn't know if it's their website or not, but it's not allowing a blank field or a non-applicable to be put in, because we want to reiterate that this needs to be on your radar. If you don't have a website yet for your business, it's okay, but it needs to be on your to-do list, and it needs to be pretty high, because many sources of capital are going to think that you're not credible if you don't have a website. All right, so how am I struggling here? Let's copy and paste the full website in. How about we do that? There we go. All right. Now, let's make sure we're a real person. So it's asking which ones of these have stairs. I think that's it. All right. Now we're on page 2 of 5. So we break it into bite-sized pieces as we go along. And now we're on page 2 of 5. Page 1 was really basic contact information, wasn't it? All right, well, what type of entity do we have? Is it a sole proprietorship, a partnership, a LLC, corporation, nonprofit, or none yet? And it's okay if we're pre-launch. Pre-launch is a great time to be working with clients. And if you go out and do your job well, you should be helping 10 to 20 pre-launch companies access capital every week, because these are the people that have a lot of time on their hands because their world's been disrupted, but they don't have the income that they need or desire, short-term or long-term. And then how many employees do you have? We always have at least one employee, don't we? Because we count ourselves, and that's a SBA rule. So you're always at least your own employee. So we never have less than one. When was the business established? You got a calendar there. And some of the sources of capital, especially grants, really like to know about what type of growth we'll have in jobs. And so let's say, oh, if all goes well, add 10 jobs. They may not know that answer. Maybe they don't want to have employees and don't want the headache, but nonetheless, it's a question. There's no right or wrong answer. And then what is their EIN? And if they don't have one, great. What a teaching moment. You can say, well, if you got just 5 minutes, I can show you how we can get your EIN set up, and you take them over to the IRS website. Some of you aren't doing that. And so what happens is they'll go Google, get an EIN, and one of your clients, but also one of our clients, went and paid like $200 to some third-party company to get an EIN. Plus, now they're waiting 7 to 10 days to get the damn thing, which is stalled funding. So you should be able to just help your client. If they get to this point, they don't have an EIN, say, well, great, let's just put an extra 5 minutes into this. There's no cost. Let me help you get your EIN set up on the IRS website. If they know their DNB number, that's fine. If not, just let them know. Great, that's part of the Capital Ready program. We'll be helping you with it. This is an important one here for us to look at, and this is why it's important that you onboard clients properly. This is a key metric here. What is their bank rating? Well, you all have probably learned how bank ratings are calculated, so I won't bore you with that. But here we make it simple for the client. What has your average business bank balance been over the past 90 days? And they're going to put in whatever that dollar amount is. Maybe it's 100, maybe it's 10. Maybe they don't have a business bank account yet. So again, there's no exclusions, but we need to know where they're at in that process, because it affects the source or sources of capital we're going to pursue and how we're going to need to use funds as we raise them. Some of our clients, we need to do an initial round of capital just to put some money in their business bank account so they don't look so insolvent. Do you currently collect, or how are you currently accepting credit cards? And it might be Stripe or PayPal, or they might have a merchant card processing with their bank. But you want to see this. Now, if you offer merchant card processing, which is big money, this is a great prospecting tool, right? I mean, I know that you can make $300 to $500 every time that you set up a client on merchant card processing from some of these vendors. It's not what we do. But I mean, if you could make an extra $300 to $500 for every client that you onboard, that of course doesn't have a merchant card processor yet, you don't think that's material? So I hope what you see is this is not going through and trying to sell people things that they don't want and need. It's not that at all. That's not the spirit of the model or the conversation. It's trying to help entrepreneurs set up their business properly. They need to be able to accept credit cards. And if they don't, you could either refer them to someone that either refers back to you and or pays you for that. That's okay. And then we're asking, are we pre-income or post-income? So it's going to be one of those two. I know it can get complicated. We'll have clients that say, well, I started 5 years ago, made a little bit of income, been inactive for the past 4 years, but technically that would mean that they have generated income from clients, right? We're not saying that I put money into it or I borrowed money, but have you sold something to a client and the client paid you? What a novel idea that is, right? That's ultimately how businesses succeed, is you sell a good or a service and you get paid for it. All right, and then we ask, how are you going about tracking your revenue? We had one young lady that came in to training when we were still doing it in person before the travel hiatus, and she set up an she set up an affiliate account with QuickBooks. She makes $50 every time she sends someone to QuickBooks. She's sending 10 to 40 a month to QuickBooks. Just pure pocket money, mailbox money that she's getting, because clients need to have some way to track revenue and expenses. That's a matter of fact. That's not trying to sell them something. And so you could either help them get set up with QuickBooks. You could refer them to a CPA or bookkeeping service. Maybe they already have something in place. That's fine. Of course, we're working with a broad continuum, right? We have early or pre-launch businesses to early stage and all the way to mature. So you're always looking for what's best for the client, but if the client doesn't have a method of tracking revenue and expenses and generating reporting, they need to, and they can either internally do it or outsource it. You might want to become a bookkeeper. One of our first clients that we got an SBA loan for was a brand new startup bookkeeping service. And so, man, you can make $80 an hour if that's enough for you doing people's bookkeeping. But regardless, we need an answer there. All right, so that finishes step 2. We'll see if I answered it correctly. If it likes it, yep. So now we're on to 3. And I told you there were 5, but there's 6 here, so I'm sorry. All right, so now we're going to collect their professional references. What's their bank name? It's Chase Bank. Who's your account officer? When they say, well, I don't really have one, that's a good time for you to start developing relationships with small business bankers in your community and say, hey, I help small businesses access capital that can't do it otherwise. And I was wondering, Mr. or Mrs. Banker, do you ever have people that come to you for a loan that you decline? Really? How many of those a month on average? What do you do with them? Almost every small business in America is running to banks right now for this new SBA PPP offering, right? What a great time to be interfacing with business bankers and say, well, sure, you take care of that, but don't you think that they're going to need access to additional capital on top of that? Absolutely. And a lot of times these small businesses don't qualify for traditional bank financing. Therefore, here you are. So you find out who their bank officer is. If they don't even know who their bank officer is, it might be time for them to change banks, right? Just to say, oh, I work with Bank of America and I just call a 1-800 number. That is not a bank officer relationship. You're just a transaction. You're just a customer number. So an opportunity to refer to local banks that you have a strategic relationship with if you want to. And again, I'm not trying to load too much on you. I'm just trying to help you understand the power and the magnitude of this model if you want to take it to that nth degree. All right, so you'd put in their name. What's your banker's phone number? What's the banker's email address? All right. All right, who is your accountant? And if they say, oh, I don't have one, you know, I'm just a small business. I had this conversation with a client yesterday. I'm just a small business. I'm startup. I don't have one. You need one. You're going to have to prepare a tax return every year. You probably could benefit from some tax guidance throughout the year. This is your chance to go develop relationships with local CPAs in your community and develop a bilateral relationship with them, right? I mean, it's beautiful. Especially those of you, and I hate to go off on this tangent again, but man, if you are insurance licensed, this is pure gold. And if you don't see it, you need to come over here and kick me in the head, or you need to open your eyes, because there is no better way to position yourself as a strategic resource with an immense lead flow than using this technique. But, so what's the accountant's phone number? What's the accountant's email address? I better use an email address or the system won't like me, right? All right, who's your small business attorney? Oh, I don't have one of those. You should. You should have a small business attorney. And so some of you are Legal Shield reps. I'm not here trying to do some shell game to get you to sell other shit. I don't really care. But small businesses need to have access to legal representation. They can be a local attorney, like we pay $275 an hour. They can use something like a Legal Shield where they have a small monthly flat rate to get a scope of services. Again, if they have an attorney, it's an opportunity to reach out to them and say, hey, we have a shared client. You're working with Barry Braxton and so am I. And I just wanted to introduce myself and let you know what I'll be doing with Barry to help raise capital. So you can either, if they have these names, you can use this as a point of introduction, because really what's happening is you're helping that small business owner develop an advisory team. And on my advisory team, I have an accountant, I have a banker, I have an attorney, and so forth. All right, so they either have one or they don't. We can say none, none, none. We'll see if the system likes that. And then ultimately, business insurance. Oh, I'm a startup. I don't have any business insurance. Well, you should, right? You need to, regardless of health and life, to protect you and your family from unexpected expenses. What about from a P&C perspective? Do you have a coverage for errors and omissions, for slip and fall? Do you have do you want to end up getting a car in your company name? You're going to have insurance for that. So it may be, especially for early stage businesses, all they have is a personal insurance agent. But again, what you can see is that this is an opportunity to develop collaborative relationships with these other professionals in the community, or help develop bilateral referral relationships with these other needed services. And again, in some cases, you can actually monetize. So if they don't have, Chase right now will pay you $50 every time you refer a client to them. We talked about QuickBooks a minute ago, $50 for every time you refer a client to them. If you're not a legal shield rep, and again, I'm not promoting that, but I bet you can get $50 for referring a client to them. Again, it's not nickel and dime, this isn't money coming out of the client's pocket, but you can see the value of being at this epicenter of helping start and grow small businesses puts you in a powerful role. All right, let's see if I've completed it. It says, nope, that is not an email address. So we're going to have to put something in on each of those, aren't we? All right, now we're to company ownership. I'm the sole owner or add additional owners. We're going to keep this fairly simple for our example here. And so short-term capital needs. How much capital, and so it didn't ask us to put anything in, right? Because we already put our information in on page 1. All right, so key questions here. How much capital do I need in the next 30 days? Now, this isn't let's roll the dice and let's play Monopoly and I need $10 million in the next 30 days, right? Maybe that's what they need, but that starts to be a bit less reasonable, isn't it? So you just want to have a consultative discussion in the short term. Right now, what do we need to raise in the next 30 days? And so whatever it is, it is, it's their business. We can't tell them what it is. Let's say it's 50,000. So then we're going to turn around and say, all right, so of that 50,000, what are you going to do with it, right? What are you going to buy? I'm going to buy inventory or marketing or whatever. The more detailed, the better. And so you could spend a lot of time on these questions and really take a deep dive in, or less or so. And then ultimately say, okay, well, if we could get you 50,000 in the next 30 days, what would your ROI be? What would that mean to your business? It may be as simple as it allowed me to stay in business, or no, I have an average of a 25% gross profit margin, whatever it is. They may not even know, right? They don't really know. They just know I just need some money. And so you want to play the role of the educator, the coach. You don't have to solve all their problems, but we want to facilitate the gathering of the best data that we can as we go through this. All right. Now, this is kind of a weird question, but I'll explain it to you. So it asks, well, here we're on short-term capital raise. How much do you need? And then it asks, which seems kind of an awkward question, well, how much do you have to put into it? Let's say that they wanted 125,000 short-term, and I want to buy a fix and flip property. That's what I want. Well, then this question becomes more relevant. Well, okay, so the fix and flip is how much are you putting into it? Oh, well, the house I want to buy is 150,000, and I have 25,000 to put into it, and thus the balance is what I'm trying to raise up here. So essentially what you're trying to do is just find out how much money do you have to put into this. It could be as simple as going back to, well, how much money do you have in your business bank account? Of course, they shouldn't deplete all of that, but it's a question. And it's okay if they say zero, because right now times are tight. I don't have anything to put into it. We just need to know what we're working with. Now we go long-term. Long-term is looking at over the next 2 years. Well, how much capital do you envision that you'll need over the next 2 years for your business to reach its potential? Now, I'll tell you subtly, the smaller this number, the better off we all are, right? Because the more likely that we're going to accomplish it in the first 30 days. Some people will come to us and say, well, the distribution partner that brought me on said, I'm guaranteed $100,000 in 30 days. I just want that. Well, that's bullshit. You know it. There's no guarantee that everyone's going to get $100,000 in 30 days. So stop saying that if you're saying it. we do our best to do at least the first tranche of capital raise in the first 30 days, but there's no guaranteed amount in the first 30 days. That's a Ponzi scheme if you're selling that. Take me out of that conversation. All right, but now this number, the bigger the better, right? So you get them thinking and excited. Okay, well, I could open another location and I could add more staff. Maybe it's $3 million. Is that right with commas there? So we're going to flush through the Capital Ready program a well-articulated business plan and financial projections. Here, this isn't necessarily as scientific as it is art of what would I like it to be, but the bigger the number, the better. It gets them excited, and it gives us a larger goal to go after, which is great for everyone, because if we can get them $3 million, that's great for them and the economy. And with you being a branch manager, joint venture partner, small business affiliate, you're making part of that capital raise. And so the more the capital raise, the more you get paid. And then again, uses of funds. So right now for uses of funds, it's okay just to get whatever they know. You don't need to spend a whole lot of time on it, but we need at least categories of where the money's going to go. And then when we build out once they've submitted their deferred refundable business plan, deferred refundable deposit, then we're going to build out the full business plan using this as a starting point, as well as the financial projection. So we'll dig much deeper there. So we'll just say buy a franchise. All right, and then we ask, and it's not, oh, you tell us, and this is the only type of capital that you'll ever get, but it gives them an opportunity to pick from some categories, and you can hold the shift key down and pick multiple categories. Oh, we got to put our email again here, don't we? All right. Step 5 of 5. All right, so now there's a bunch of questions here, and I'll tell you the truth. The reason that these questions are asked is because it's essentially what we need to go get them up to $150,000 SBA 7A Express loan. These are the specific questions that are needed, and that's why they're here. What you and I know is different sources of capital have different underwriting criteria. There's many sources of capital that we won't need hardly any of these answers. And there's some larger, more complicated capital raises that we would need a lot more. But just so you know, the specific reason why these questions are here is because if we have good answers to these questions, we're ready to submit an application for an SBA 7A Express loan. Startups qualify up to $150,000, minimum collateral needed, low interest rate, 120-month repayment terms. So that's why these questions are here. So now we have them describe their business. And that can be a little tougher, right? Because sometimes they've not thought through that in detail, or they might say, well, I'm pre-launch, I'm still figuring it out, but just do the best you can. The better the information we have here, the better implementation we'll have with the client, but don't get froze, or don't let the client freeze up and not progress by having too much analysis paralysis. What do you think is going to happen with your business in the upcoming year? I predict, we'll do it for ICS. So let's just do this for ICS. Type of business. We assist small businesses in accessing capital regardless of personal credit or time in business. Now, certainly we could elaborate more on that, but that's a pretty good one-sentence summary of what we do. What do we predict ICS is going to do? And here you can do more than one sentence, but ICS will open 1,000 branch offices across the country, and each branch will assist at least 20 new clients per month, as each client is guaranteed a $100,000 minimum, I should be a faster typist, right? Minimum capital raise, and I don't want to take too much time, but essentially we could go on with that. And then we can start putting together some income projections, because if you do the math on this, it's pretty outstanding. So we'll wrap this field up with this. All right, so if we're, for ICS's sake, and everybody's business is different, of course, but I don't know your business as well as I do ours. So if we're gonna have 1,000 branches and each is going to enroll at least 20 clients a month, and we're going to do at least $100,000 capital raise for each, then we know that we're going to, the bottom line is, have a national economic impact of right. So $2 billion annually is the economic impact that ICS will have by having branch offices and each helping just 20 clients a month. Now, some of you are knocking that out of the water. We have a different Barry, but it's also on the call. And, you know, he and I are working together. I have no doubt that Barry out of California, we're going to help at least 100 clients a month just out of his one branch. But so forecast is just saying, okay, here's kind of what I think and feel this is going to look like in the upcoming year. Again, when we get to the business plan and financial projections, we'll dig much deeper, but we need kind of a concise summary here. And then why do you think this will happen? All right, so again, their answer would be different than ours, but most small businesses want and need additional capital to start, grow, and reach their potential. The traditional, well, you can go into about how we, again, our TA and what we do, but the bottom line is we're trying to substantiate our forecast with a description. How will this loan benefit your business? And, you know, so it's going to allow us to hire employees, to grow, to meet the need, whatever it is. I'm going to put something in here. It's not going to like blanks. Who is your primary customer? Well, for us, that's difficult because we work with the entire spectrum. We work a lot with pre-launch companies, startups, and then I had an onboarding call yesterday with a cardiothoracic surgeon. You know, he makes over $500,000 a year, but he's starting a new media company, and we're doing a big boy capital raise for him. So the more, in general, for a business, the more targeted you are of who your primary customer is, the better. But the bottom line is you'll work with them to put in what they can. Again, don't have analysis paralysis. You can teach them, you can educate them, but get what we can and move on. Are there certain key customers? One of the last clients that I got funding for when I was with the SBA, which was up through July 5th of last year, was a gentleman. He was an he is an auto mechanic. He worked for another shop, and he made $96,000 last year, which would have been 18, on his tax return as an auto mechanic. Pretty good income. But he knew that there was an opportunity to earn more by owning his own business, and without conflict of interest, he approached some of the clients that he was working with, and we actually had letters of intent signed by those clients that we were able to take to the lender to be able to substantiate, yeah, this may be a new mechanic's garage, but we already have these 2 fleet deals and these other key customers that are already committed. So we don't have to go get letters of intent from the customers, but the point is, you know, who are your key customers? If you're a branch manager in our model, you may want to talk about the importance of key influencers, right? Because you don't have to go out and find those 20 people a month. You just need to interface with bankers, with church leaders, with chamber executives, because they have the sphere of influence. Who are your key competitors? And if they say, well, I don't have any competitors, either they're like Elon Musk with SpaceX, or they don't know. And so it's very unlikely that we don't have key competitors. We have, of course, direct competition and indirect. Direct are people that do almost exactly what we do versus indirect. Are there any specific key suppliers? This is real key, right? Real key, right? This is real important right now, because with supply chain disruption, there are some businesses that have a demand for their products or services, but they can't fulfill them because there's a supply chain. So we need to know who their key suppliers are. Are you national, state, regional? Explain the geographic area that they're focused in. This one is important. I'll put a couple little asterisks here. It is really, really valuable to join a trade association, because that shows, and it's more important probably than what you think, it shows lenders or extenders of credit that, well, you are vested in what you're doing, especially if you're pre-launch or startup, you've already plugged into some national entity that indicates that you are both committed and receiving knowledge and support. When I was with the SBA, we loved doing franchise loans, because franchise loans are some of the easiest to get. The SBA maintains a list of approved franchises, and if you want a loan for one of them, pretty simple to get, because the SBA's interpretation is, well, that franchise has a turnkey model, right? So you're much more likely to be successful. Here we're saying, well, you may not be doing a franchise, but are you at least plugging into resources and support related to your business that would increase your probability of success? Is there any regulation that impacts your business? What makes you different? What's your primary marketing strategy? And then let's go into your marketing analysis, your 4 Ps, your promotion, pricing, and so forth. Looks like it cut off there. And then at the end, we'll submit the answers. And so when you submit those answers, or the client submits the answers, it of course is populated in our CRM. So let's stop the share as we wrap this up. And so then that is going to satisfy. Let's go back to the grid we were on, if I can find it. That's going to satisfy step 2 of the 4 steps that we were going through, which I'll pull back up here now. There we go. So what we went through is a detailed understanding of the onboarding form. Now, you're probably better at this than I am, and so you can do it differently. What we've covered is at least you need to get the link to the client, but at best, you take the time. I mean, again, you're earning $250 for onboarding this client. So if you would take the time and go through that with them, then we can get better information. They feel better about their decision. They've had that needs analysis. I had a client yesterday, and he's dissatisfied because when the promotion, the business development partner brought him on, just gave him the link and didn't walk him through it. And so he didn't feel that he received the care, the attention that he desires. And so I encourage you to onboard clients properly and thoughtfully. Do it with your heart as well as your head, and we can have much better success. All right, so let's pop out a couple of these questions that are relevant to the topic matter, and then we'll end it for today. Tracy asks, how are we informed that the client signed the DocuSign? Well, we do not send them the DocuSign for the Capital Ready program, Tracy, until these 4 steps have been done. So you collect the $4.99 from them, you onboard them as we just showed, you help them with the soft pull, you send half of the $4.99 to us. We talked about you can discount that $4.99, give them a $50 discount all the way to a $250 discount if you want. But once you've done those 4 steps, then we send the DocuSign. Thank you, Tracy, for that question. Ann asks, says, good morning, Ann. Can we charge them $250? Absolutely. Yeah, that's my point. And you probably asked that question before I brought it up, but yes, you can charge them as little as $250. Now, some of you are not charging them anything up front. You kind of packaged it into your other services. And so technically, you could just skip number one altogether if you chose to, but that doesn't remove the responsibilities for doing steps 2, 3, and 4. All right, Barry's having issues after the second owner. Sorry, I'm reading this now, but we can work with you on that. Alicia says, got a client, needs to go through TCR. She has a high credit score, but she doesn't have money for the Capital Ready program. Well, that seems to be a little bit conflicting. It's probably the way I'm reading it, Alicia. So the Capital Ready program, you can net it out if you want as low as $250. The normal recommended price is $499. If that client doesn't have at least $250, then we'd probably want to go to the fast track, and which has no upfront cost, and get them some working capital to work with. But they'd be in a pretty tough situation if they didn't have $250 to start a business. Perry says, thanks for the training. You're welcome. Yeah, as far as areas, we need branches. And originally the concept of the branch was to have brick and mortar branches across the country, kind of like what you see with Edward Jones or State Farm. We've relaxed that. We've dropped the branch license fee from $100,000 down to $50,000. Of that $50,000, $25,000 of that comes back to you for working capital. We just opened a new branch in Newport Beach, California yesterday, doing that same model. And so, yes, Joseph, if you want to have a branch in Tulsa and one in Oklahoma City, that's great. It's one of my neighbors is a big franchisor with Sonic, right? And it's not unusual for fast food franchise owners to buy multiple franchises. And again, we're not a franchise. I'm just using an analogy because you want to cover a more geographic area. Because what we know is if you don't put a Sonic in a given town, someone else will, and they decided, the McWilliams decided they wanted to have as many of those Sonics as possible. And while you don't make a killing off of one Sonic, you make a lot off of a lot of Sonics. Same here. You can do well off of one branch, but Joseph, if you want to control multiple markets, sure, we can set up a branch for you in Tulsa and Oklahoma City. That's great. Anonymous attendee asked, where is this form? I do not have it. Well, this form is derived from right there. Ann says, I'll have to pay out of pocket if I discount it. Well, no, you can discount it all the way down to $250 and you wouldn't have to pay anything out of pocket. Barry asked a question. Do you recommend scheduling a couple hours a week to do this exercise with them that you just walked through? Well, I would budget an hour to onboard each client. Now, Barry's different than some of you. Barry bought a block of onboarding packets. So he's charging $499. His cost to us is only $100. So Barry's making literally $399 for onboarding each client. So he's got a little more money to play with because a higher margin per unit. But I wouldn't, as a branch manager, you need to know how to do this a few times, but I don't think this is where your time should be spent, Barry, as a branch manager. I think instead you should be out developing these key influencer relationships and running your branch. What you can do is have someone else do this task. And it could be a support person that's really doing it more as just a transaction. Let's complete the form. What a number of you are doing, which is really impressive, is partnering with local life insurance agents and setting up a Calendly app. They'll do this onboarding for you for free, and then they find it as a valuable needs analysis for asset protection or wealth creation products. And some of you are so damn aggressive, you're actually then charging them a revenue share of the insurance commissions generated. Again, that's all up to you. But the short answer to Barry's question is someone has to do the onboarding of clients. if you're bringing on, well, Barry, you're going to do 100 a month, right? So if you're doing which I fully believe, starting this month. So if you bring on 100 clients and you're doing 100 hours of onboarding, that's going to consume a lot of your time. So in the beginning, it's fine, but soon thereafter, we're going to need to delegate it down, and that could either be paid staff or volunteer staff. Volunteer staff being such as an insurance professional that will spend the hour with the client because there's no better lead generation strategy for them. All right, Sean asks, what should you say to customer says that they're looking to apply for the loans the government is offering? And we help clients frequently with the PPP. And so if they feel that they have a plan to raise all the capital that they're going to need over the next 2 years, and they have a guarantee of at least $100,000 to do it, I would just step away and say, great, you got your act together. Let us know if circumstances should change. But most small business owners, and again, we talked about this, I think it was yesterday, the SBA's loan, which is almost a grant program of the PPP, is great, but that does not reduce the need for what we do at all. In fact, it enhances it, because what they're committing to do is get an injection of capital to keep their employees on. But as well as I do, there are a lot of other expenses to own and operate a business, not only including inventory and rent and utilities and marketing and so forth. So I don't see that as competition at all. I met with a board of director member, so a board member of a bank yesterday at 11 a.m. Central. And we were just talking about this, and there's just not a conflict of what we do and the SBA funding. All right, I want to make sure I answer any other questions that's relevant to this. Lupe says, as an affiliate, I don't have the CRM. Right, but this link that I just highlighted here that we just went through works for everybody. You don't have to have the CRM access. But yeah, affiliates don't need the CRM access. But the branch managers are our key distribution partners. They have a higher level of commitment, a higher level of involvement. They get the replicated website. They get the CRM access. Again, Barry is an example. He paid his branch license fee yesterday. His CRM license is already live. We have to do his training this week. We already ordered his replicated website. So it's okay to be an affiliate. There's nothing wrong with that. But an affiliate is kind of the entry-level role versus a more professional level of involvement, which are the branches. And really just about anybody can become a branch manager now that we've relaxed. We don't have to have staff. We don't have to have a dedicated brick and mortar office. We lowered the branch fee in half. We added in $25,000 of working capital. I don't know anyone that would want to be a branch manager that couldn't. Antonio asked a question. If they just want to do business credit, do they need to do that form? Well, Antonio, you can enroll them in the Capital Ready program, and we can look at them more holistically, or you could plug them just into the TCR program, which is normally inferred as a resource to optimize personal credit, but it also does help build business credit. So that would be your choice of what you think is most suitable for the client. I'd recommend bringing them into the Capital Ready program. Tracy asked, if the Capital Ready client has a score over 680, how do they access the second tranche? Well, we'll work with them on that, and there's not a simple answer, because based upon their circumstances, like we just went through, where those sources of capital will come from will vary tremendously. Robert says, do you think it's okay for me to partner with other JVs in the San Francisco Bay Area? Absolutely. Yeah, I would be. I think there's no better time right now than to reach out to key influencers and say, hey, we've got a unique model, a grant subsidized program that guarantees any small business at least $100,000 capital raise. I'd like to visit with you about collaborating. And in fact, I've got a joint venture model that we could work on that I think you might want to look at. Great question, Robert. Ann asks, what is the best way to approach folks to better get prospects to become actual clients? Well, it was recently we went through the Capital Ready program talking points. And I think it was even just yesterday, possibly, but the days blend together right now. And so I just get real familiar with that. And then it's that simple elevator pitch. We help small businesses, regardless of personal credit scores or minimum time in business, access a guaranteed minimum of $100,000. Do you know of any small businesses that might be interested to see if they qualify? And half the people will raise their hand and say, yeah, and I'm interested to see if I qualify. Or they'll say, oh, wow, yeah, I've got 3 or 4 people I can refer you to. All right. Dr. Grizzly asked, why discount down to $250? I'm not promoting that you discount at all. I think the $499 is very reasonable, but some of you are less confident. And if you want to offer price concessions to attract clients, then that's your choice. But I do agree, Dr. Grizzly, that I wouldn't discount it. Michael says valuable training. Thank you. And what we're doing is we're finishing up a training library. We did one back in January. And so essentially we're going to assemble and label these different trainings that we've done thus far in 2020 and put them in a referenceable form. Sean asked, what's PPP? PPP is part of the federal stimulus package to help small businesses stay in business by providing 2.5 times their average monthly payroll, essentially as a grant. So it's an SBA loan with no personal guarantee and no minimum personal credit score. We're doing a ton of those. Frankly, what people used to ask for didn't really exist. They wanted an SBA loan with shitty credit and no personal guarantee. And it's like, well, that doesn't exist. Well, we're wrong, because now, thanks to our federal government, I'm not casting positive or negative light, but now the new circumstances is absolutely, we can get you an SBA loan with shitty credit and no personal guarantee at 1% interest. It's insane. Didn't exist before, does now. Get people in the Capital Ready program. We can help them. Thank you, Michael, for your nice words. Michael says, is JV program, all that same. Oh, Joseph, my goodness, my mistake. Yeah. So this is not meant to suggest that the only income that you make is the front end. We're just describing how to onboard a client. No, of course, you're paid based upon the entire capital raise of the clients. So there's more significant back end money, but this is the front end, and that's why we're focusing on. Joseph, I didn't mean to indicate at all that you're not paid the same on the back end, and that's where the big money is. I apologize. Let's see here. Jerry asked, how much longer is the PPP process? Well, they enroll in the Capital Ready program, and we have a different application for the PPP, and we have some different documents that we need to pull together, but we're working with a number of banks very closely and understand the process. So it's not really longer, it's a funding source out of the Capital Ready program. And Lupe is asking about Spanish speaking. Yes, so definitely we're looking for branch managers who are bilingual. We have a need for a Mandarin Chinese speaking branch manager in Los Angeles currently. We need Spanish speaking branch managers in locations across the country. And so, yes, Lupe, if you know any of those folks, let us know. Sean asked, in my estimation, how many people do you think will get turned down for the government programs that will need our help? I think your question's wrong, respectfully. Everyone that's approved for a government program needs our help. And obviously everyone that's declined also needs our help. the programming and funding sources from the government is not going to meet all the small businesses needs. It's not competition. It's great. I couldn't have wished for a better economic environment, because now small businesses are thinking and acting on raising capital. So what you can do is say, well, great, in addition to whatever free money you might get from the government, let's go ahead and work on at least another $100,000. So it's just not a competitive endeavor. It's not a direct competitor. It's not an indirect competitor. It's a great conversation starter. All right. Well, we covered a lot of information and we went way long, but that's why we started a few minutes early. We'll get this recording out. I appreciate your time. And ultimately, we can give you the tools, but you've got to go implement, right? It's at some point, it's on your shoulders to go out and create conversations, follow these 4 steps so we can help small businesses and earn you an adult income. We're appreciative of your time today, and let's go take action. Thank you. Bye-bye.